Hello, I am Ugly Kid, your host of Base Western Fallout. I'm very passionate about Fallout, maybe a little opinionated and petty. Either way, I'm always right. When people disagree with me, they get a little bit closer to death, so it's safer to just bow before me, because I'm right. I would like to point out before getting into this video that I started with Fallout 4 as a little boy, but over time I've come to appreciate the classics in New Vegas. So I was radicalized. I went down a cool little rabbit hole, but I digress. Onto the video. My friends and I are huge Fallout fans, and I assumed there was an unspoken agreement amongst us that Black Isle, I used to play Black Isle and Obsidian interchangeably when referring to the Fallout games, as it was largely the same team to work on 1, 2, Van Buren, and New Vegas, but the top dogs and Bethesda was cringe. So, color me surprised. I come across this comment on their Instagram reel comparing how Bethesda handles society versus how Black Isle handles society, and I feel betrayed. I feel disappointed. This man, he's only played the 3D games. He only plays for Deathclaw Pussy, and he's trying to be a lore expert. So, I confronted him on Discord, but he refused to respond. Coward. So I'm calling you out, pal. So, first things first, before I even deconstruct this argument here, I need to point out that this is a meta comment, this Instagram reel, about how the games are written more than anything. It's not simply pointing out how different things are, it's comparing and contrasting Bethesda's writing style to Black Isle's. The Bethesda series treats nuclear Armageddon as something that cannot be bounced back from. And it's ironic, seeing as Hiroshima and Nagasaki were nukes less than a century ago, and yet Japan is doing just fine right now. Tokyo is the largest city in the world, and you can walk around Hiroshima and Nagasaki today without any harmful side effects. Fallout 1 is set only 90-ish years after the war, yet it's more developed than Fallout 4, which takes place 210 years after the war. A common argument is, God forbid, my post-apocalyptic game feels apocalyptic. That's a fine opinion to hold, want an apocalyptic title to feel apocalyptic. However, Black Isle weren't interested in depicting the struggle for survival when making Fallout 1. Instead, they were focusing on how society could bounce back from nuclear war. I feel as though Fallout 76 would have been the game to depict a true apocalypse. However, Fallout 76 is a beautiful foresty world. Strange they went this direction, but I have to admit, Fallout 76 is a beautiful game. Anyways, onto the meat of this video. Motherfuckers don't know what happened to the East Coast after Fallout 3. Yes, we do, bruh. I'll tell you what I know off the top of my head, and then I'm going to look up more info. So off the top of my head, I know that the Capital Wasteland Brotherhood reconnected with the West Coast Brotherhood and became one big family. One big brotherhood. How sweet. Then the Brotherhood got hold of Prydwin's, established control, and flew past New York City on their way to the Commonwealth. Now, let me look up more info. So, I was wrong. According to FalloutFandom.com on the Brotherhood of Steel page, it says that Maxon reunited the Outcasts with the normal Brotherhood, but only on the East Coast. So the Commonwealth Brotherhood reunited with the West Coast off-camera before the TV show, and it says nothing about the East Coast Brotherhood controlling the East Coast, just that they've established a presence throughout it. And after they secured the East Coast, they started heading west to help and unite the other chapters of the Brotherhood. This must be TV show lore because it's not found in the games. Allow me to research for a second. Okay, I think you may have heard this somewhere, and either a source is wrong or he misunderstood. Either way, it's not stated anywhere, and it's likely just a theory. In the TV show, they established new Brotherhood chapters all over the country. This bothers me, but it's unrelated to the essay. The point is that this did not happen, and they're inexplicably a part of a huge Brotherhood that now occupies the entire country for some reason. Next, he says that the previous point is directly how the West Coast Brotherhood has Prydwin's. The East Coast gave them the West Coast? No, In the intro to Fallout Tactics, it stated the West Coast had developed several airships. Now, the canonity of Tactics is always debated, but a character on the Prydwin in Fallout 4, Lancer Captain Kells, he corroborates this particular point of lore. But the East Coast, they made their own Prydwins separately from the West Coast, who also made them. Now, it's never actually stated in the show how they got all those airships, but it's stated to belong to the West Coast Brotherhood, not a handout from the East Coast. So the final point he made, which I will be directly combating, is that the East Coast Brotherhood is stronger than the NCR. I mean, yeah, they don't exist anymore. The current NCR is like a little shanty town with a dozen residents, but his point is probably referring to the New Vegas iteration of the NCR. It's difficult for us to actually gauge the size of the East Coast Brotherhood. We know they have installations in the Capital Wasteland and the Commonwealth, but there aren't many confirmed installations of this particular chapter aside from what we see in Fallout 3 and 4. Those two particular installations combined are much smaller and much weaker than the NCR as a whole, and it is implied they're more, but we cannot confirm their true scale, so no definitive statements could be made either way. However, according to the TV show, the Commonwealth is stronger than every other chapter of the Brotherhood combined. Either that or they're just more powerful than the West Coast Brotherhood. The West Coast has multiple airships, so that would indeed make the Commonwealth chapter powerful. This could be that they have more airships, or it could be particularly Liberty Prime that makes them so powerful. Now, I'm not going to lie, Liberty Prime could fuck some shit up in the NCR. However, they are an entire nation, and they would just have to take down that one robot. I mean, there's going to be other shit, but yeah, I'll get to that in a second. It's also important to note that the NCR was winning this war against the West Coast Brotherhood as depicted in Van Buren and New Vegas. Now that might not be saying much. I'm sure the East Coast Brotherhood could fuck some shit up if they mobilized Liberty Prime and their airships, as well as surprise attacks with large battalions of power armored soldiers and vertibirds. But it is important to note the NCR also has vertibirds and power armor, probably less than the Brotherhood, sure, but they still have good tactics. Stated in New Vegas that each individual Brotherhood soldier is stronger than an NCR soldier. However, the NCR outnumbers them something like 10 to 1. And that's the West Coast Brotherhood, sure, but based on the Brotherhood's presence in Fallout 3 and 4, it could be safe to assume similar statistics from NCR numbers to East Coast Brotherhood numbers. And you may have noticed something here. This is all speculative. There's no way to confirm one way or the other which nation is more powerful at their peak. Also, he might be right, but I don't want to admit that, so I'm just going to call this a draw. And at the end of the day, his comment doesn't really address the main point being made. Bethesda likes to write locations that haven't recovered after 2 centuries, despite real-world locations recovering from atomic bombs in less than 1 century. That isn't to mention the Fallout universe has highly advanced technology that would make recovery even easier. The Black Isle writers enjoy depicting civilizations with complex politics and large-scale conflicts. In the Bethesda games, the most developed location is Diamond City, a shanty town living in a baseball stadium. The most complex politics is Paladin Dance versus Elder Maxon, and that's not saying a lot. The largest conflict is a couple skirmishes between the Brotherhood and the Enclave, so the state of the East Coast Brotherhood doesn't really change anything. It would be different if any in-game lore or the TV show hinted at civilization of Brotherhood territory, but we don't have any hints to suggest as such. So there we have it. I've totally pwned you, dude. And I'm sure you're seething. I know you're seething. I love you, but I just had to be petty about this. And the main takeaway should be that I'm always right. And if you disagree with me, you're always wrong. Anyways, yeah, it's totally fine if anybody enjoys the Bethesda titles. I still play Fallout 4. It was my first Fallout game. I just prefer the Black Isle titles, you know? And, my friend, if you're watching this, I encourage you to continue playing Death Cross Sex mods. Just don't ever disagree with me here. I'm the alpha. Don't you ever forget that kitchen. So yeah, guys, I'm Ugly Kid for Base Western Fallout. I know this video essay sucks mega cocks, and I'm gonna try to make better video essays one day. I don't know when. Probably I might not. Yeah, my references are the Fallout games and the TV show and FalloutFandom.com. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm Ugly Kid. All right.